The Wind Off Union Creek by T.A. Irving. Read by Tracy Wilhelm. I've got it on the road for 20 years now, and I know when the campfire's burning low is the right time to spin a yarn. Not every stretch of this river's got ghosts, but some, well, maybe they've got too much silence. We were up near Union Creek that night, camped pitched just far enough from the river's edge to let the dark swallow the sounds of the water. The trees closed in like ancient pillars, tall and black against a pale slice of moon. Cold had settled in on us early, the kind of cold that doesn't just remind you of winter, but tries to bring it back. The group had eaten dinner, laughed a lot, drunk a little, and now they were all leaning in, their faces orange and flickering in the firelight. That's when I told them about old Elias Harper. Elias came west from Michigan in 1887, chasing gold and beaver pelts. He wasn't picky so long as it paid. He was a stubborn sort, with a beard like iron filings and a laugh that made folks think they liked him, even if they didn't trust him. That winter, he decided to cross the Cascades with 3 others, trappers, prospectors, hard cases all. Trouble was, it turned out to be the coldest winter anyone could remember. The snow came in early and deep, and it stuck around. Somewhere in those mountains, all 4 of them disappeared. For months, the snow lay heavy and unbroken, wide as a burial shroud, and folks in towns wrote them off as dead. But come spring, a party of loggers found what was left of old Elias. He was sitting against a fallen cedar, head tipped back, eyes open, but frozen over like a hazy ice in a watering trough. His hands were stiff and black with frostbite, nails cracked all the way down to the quick. His rifle was snapped clean in two beside him, and the ground around him was bare snow, all melted down to mud, even though the air was still cold. Well, the other 3 fellas, they weren't there. The search party combed the slopes for days on end and found nothing. No tracks, no bones, not so much as a scrap of cloth. The loggers buried Elias where they found him, under a cairn of stones, and said a few words. But one of the men, a French-Canadian named LaRoche, swore he'd seen something moving up in the trees that day. Tall, thin, and moving between the tops of the pines, and watching. Word spread out, and before long, the locals were muttering a name normally only ever heard from the Algonquin natives up north. Wendigo. A spirit of famine. A hunger so big it wears the shape of a man, but can't hide all the wrongness that's in its bones. Some said Harper had eaten his companions to survive. The Wendigo took him for that. Other folks said the monster found him first, taught him what real hunger was. Folks say both of them ate out there in the cold. I let the fire crackle in silence that followed. A couple of the guests laughed nervously. I shrugged as if I didn't care much for the truth either way. It's just a story, I said. My voice came out quieter than I meant it to. Still, folks around here swear that when the wind comes off the snow, in the dark, in the night, well, you can hear him. Or it. I left them with that. I banked the fire low, crawled into my tent, and stretched out into my bag. The cold was sharp against my nose and ears, but nothing a sleeping bag and a wool blanket couldn't handle. I dozed, thoughts drifting away on the steady rhythm of the river, lifting the weight of the day from my shoulders. The dream came on slow. First, it was the sound of wind in the pines, that gentle sifting, needles brushing together in high branches like whispers. But the sound began to stretch and grew thinner, sharper, like a bow being drawn across a single violin string. It swelled until it wasn't wind anymore. It was a cry. Not the short, sharp call of a coyote, not the wavering howl of a wolf, but something longer, hungrier, a sound too big for lungs. It seemed to run through the trees and the ground and in my chest all at once. The tent walls were moving, not flapping in a breeze, breathing, drawing in, pressing out as if the canvas were something, nothing more than skin stretched over a living thing. I unzipped the flap and stepped out with bare feet into the snow. Only there hadn't been snow when I went to bed. My mind reeled. The pines rose black and monumental. The sharp air froze the moisture in my eyes before I could blink. Between the trees, something moved. It was tall, too tall. Its arms hung almost to its knees, fingers stiff and clawed with black ice. Its head turned towards me, slow as a frozen hinge, and the moonlight caught its face. It was Elias Harper, or what little remained of him. His skin had shrunk to his skull, split in thin cracks and ripping at the corners of his mouth. His teeth were black, but sharp like a dog's. His eyes were gone, but the sockets burned with a dull, cold light. "You're warm," it whispered, chewing at the air. The voice was wet, brittle, almost break it apart. "I'm starving." It began to walk, knees bending too far back like hind legs, shoulders swaying like a starving bear. Each step sounded like ice shearing from a glacial cliff. The wind howled, and this time I could hear words in it. Not English, not anymore, I knew, but old and deep and made of hunger. The trees bent towards me, their trunks stretching into long ribs, their roots curling up and reaching. Wooden tendrils pushed out of the ground like dying, desperate fingers from some premature grave. I tried to move, but the snow bit at my feet, cold climbing up my legs until I couldn't feel the bone, couldn't feel anything but pain. The thing was close now, close enough that I watched my breath crystallizing on its cheek, so close I could hear the grinding of its blackened teeth as it smiled. It reached out, reaching for me. I woke with a start. The light in the tent was pale and thin, the kind that comes just after sunrise. My breath fogged the air. Every tent pole was coated in frost, delicate crystals catching what little light the dawn gave. Beside the flap, my boots stood upright and frozen solid in a shallow puddle. The ice was just beginning to melt. Outside, the group was stirring. One of the guests asked if I'd heard the wind last night. I told him it was only cold air blowing off the mountains. My voice didn't shake, but it felt like it should have. We broke camp quick that morning. The sooner we got someplace warmer, the better. Half a mile down the trail, just off to the right, I saw it, the low pile of stones, moss-grown now, half swallowed by the forest. I kept silent and kept walking. But when the wind shifted, I heard it again. Not quite a voice, not quite a howl. It followed me all the way to the van.